This is not negotiation, this is coercion. And it just became official policy. At the World Economic Forum in Davos on Saturday morning, President Donald Trump issued an unmistakable ultimatum aimed directly at Canada. If Prime Minister Mark Carney proceeds with a trade deal with China, Canada will face 100% tariffs on every single good entering the United States. Not 25%, not 50%, 100%. Let that sink in. 100% tariffs on all Canadian goods, all products, everything. It is an economic blockade disguised as trade policy. And Trump issued it not through negotiation, not through diplomatic channels, but through Truth Social, at 2 a.m. in raw, unfiltered language. Here is exactly what Trump wrote. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the USA. That is not a proposal. That is not a negotiating position. That is a threat. And threats have consequences. What triggered this? On Friday, Canada and China announced a trade agreement. China agreed to lower tariffs on Canadian agricultural products and electric vehicles. Canada agreed to lower tariffs on certain Chinese goods. It was a standard bilateral trade negotiation. 2 countries, 2 governments, making a rational economic decision. Trump saw it as betrayal. He viewed Canada's decision to diversify its trading relationships, to not depend entirely on the United States for economic survival, as an act of disloyalty. And he responded with immediate, brutal force. He called it a drop-off port scheme. He accused Canada of allowing China to use Canadian territory as a staging ground to smuggle goods into American markets. It was hyperbolic. It was inaccurate. But it was Trump's narrative, and he weaponized it. Then came the second move. Trump revoked Mark Carney's invitation to what Trump calls the Board of Peace. This is Trump's way of saying, you comply with my demands, or you are excluded from my inner circle. You obey, or you are cast out. This is the mechanism of coercion. It works like this. Submit to my conditions, accept my terms, and you receive benefits, access, respect, inclusion. Refuse, and you face punishment, tariffs, exclusion, economic isolation. There is no middle ground. There is no negotiation. There is only obedience or consequences. Think about what these tariffs would actually mean. Canada exports roughly $400 billion in goods annually to the United States. That includes automobiles, minerals, agricultural products, and energy. A 100% tariff does not mean higher prices. It means economic blockade. It means every Canadian good becomes economically unviable in the American market. Factories shut down. Workers are laid off. Entire industries collapse. Ford manufactures cars in Canada. Toyota manufactures in Canada. The auto supply chain is integrated across the border. Impose 100% tariffs, and that supply chain dissolves. American consumers pay more. American manufacturers lose access to parts. Canadian workers lose their jobs. Everyone loses, except Trump. Trump uses the chaos to negotiate. Carney capitulates. Carney abandons the China deal. Carney accepts whatever terms Trump imposes, and Trump gets to claim victory. Trump gets to say he forced Canada into submission. Trump gets to remind every other nation on Earth that defying him carries an enormous cost. This is the Trump doctrine in action. It is not alliance building. It is hierarchy enforcing. It is not mutual benefit. It is subordination disguised as trade policy. And Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, understood immediately what was happening. He understood that Trump was attempting to force him into a choice: abandon Canada's economic independence or face economic catastrophe. Carney did not back down. He doubled down. His office did not issue a frantic apology. It did not promise to withdraw the China deal. Instead, Carney's government reaffirmed Canada's commitment to the deal. They signaled that Canada would not be bullied into submission. They chose a principled stance over capitulation. That decision now carries a price tag. If Trump follows through on the 100% tariff threat, and there is no reason to believe he will not, Canada faces an economic shock unlike anything in recent history. Now the math becomes clear. Carney has three choices. None of them are good. Choice 1. Capitulate. Withdraw the China deal. Apologize to Trump. Accept exclusive economic dependence on the United States. Preserve Canadian jobs, but surrender Canadian sovereignty. This is submission. This is what Trump is demanding. Choice 2. Resist. Maintain the China deal. Let Trump impose 100% tariffs. Accept the economic pain. Unemployment rises, exports collapse, stock markets crater. But Canada preserves the principle that nations have the right to negotiate independently. This is principle. This is costly principle. Choice 3. Negotiate. Attempt to find middle ground. Modify the deal with China. Offer Trump concessions. Try to reach a compromise that avoids both capitulation and full economic pain. This is what Trump's diplomacy typically forces: a negotiated surrender disguised as deal-making. But here is what matters most. Trump has made clear that the age of alliance partnerships based on mutual interest is over. What replaces it is hierarchy, subordination, obedience to Trump's demands. And Canada is just the beginning. Trump has demanded ownership of Greenland. He has pressured Denmark. He has made it clear he views traditional allies as subordinates rather than partners. He has announced that North American integration under American control is his goal, not cooperation among equals. This is a fundamental shift in how the Trump administration conducts foreign policy, and the world is watching to see whether nations will accept this new hierarchy or resist it. For Canada, the clock is ticking. The tariff threat is real. The deadline is imminent. Carney must decide whether to preserve Canadian independence or accept permanent subordination to Trump's demands. But understand what either outcome reveals about Trump's vision for America's role in the world. Whether Carney submits or resists, Trump has made unmistakably clear that the age of the North American alliance as a partnership among equals is over. What replaces it is empire, American empire, with Canada as a satellite state, either compliant or punished. The ramifications extend far beyond trade statistics. They extend into the question of whether smaller nations have any leverage left when facing a superpower willing to weaponize its market access, and whether alliances can survive when one partner treats the others not as partners, but as subordinates to be controlled. Davos has shown us the answer. Right now, the answer appears to be no. The next 72 hours will determine whether Carney capitulates or resists. And that answer will reshape not just Canada-US relations, but how every nation on Earth calculates its relationship with the Trump administration. Stay with us. This moment is defining the new order, one tariff threat at a time.